close my door. On today's keynote, we are joined by Mike and Karen Psyche, two Cornell alums who chased a lifelong dream, which landed them in Denmark to become design master and communications manager at the iconic Lego Group, the largest toy company in the world. We'll talk about the importance of play, of using your imagination to create, to learn, to grow, either professionally or personally. The Lego Group is renowned for their time-tested culture of innovation and play, and we'll get some great insight from the Psyche's experience working at the company's headquarters for the last 9 years. So viewers, please join me in welcoming Karen and Mike Psyche to the show. Great to have you two. Thanks so much for joining us from Billund, Denmark. How are we doing over there?
Good. Thanks for having us.
It's lovely to have you. So we're not alone. We're going to have a conversation, but viewers, I would like you to join the conversation, please. So you can do that by opening up the chat bubble at the top right of your video player. Open that up, submit your questions in there. I will receive them on my end as they come in, and I think we'll take questions throughout if that's okay with the Psyches. This event is being recorded, so if you're joining us and you have to bail at any point or leave, you can view this at the same URL. So after the event is over, you can simply join this same URL to view the recording. And again, this is free and open to the world, so share it with your friends and colleagues as you like. Okay, Mike, Karen, tell us about your journeys to Lego, your backgrounds. Mike, you had a, in some ways kind of a non-linear path, but at the same ways, it's the most linear path I've ever seen toward a career. So tell us about your background and how it led you to work as design master at the Lego Group.
Yeah, so thanks. I just want to say beforehand, no hard questions, okay? Like, I don't know if you want to know like how many bricks it is to the moon or something like that. I don't do those ones. So I only want the softball easy questions, all right?
You got it, buddy.
All right, great. But yeah, we've been at Lego now, or in Denmark for almost 9 years. I was a engineering undergraduate at Cornell. I graduated in 2009 with a bachelor's in mechanical and aerospace engineering. But Lego is something that's been a hobby of mine since I was 6 or something. I have 2 older brothers, one of who also went to Cornell and graduated in 2007, I think. So we're a pretty big Cornell family. But yeah, I had this this hobby of Lego all through my life. I don't know if we're supposed to go to another picture or what.
Well, how about this? We have some pictures to show you guys of Mike, but I'll start off and introduce myself, and then we'll get into more of his history.
Good call, Karen. Thank you.
Hopefully on your screen right now, you can see pictures of us. So these are minifigures that we chose to represent ourselves. And you can see they're obviously very different. So for mine, the first thing I hope people can notice is that I've got sort of like what's going on up here is very different from what's going on below, my winter hat. So
wait, I thought that was me.
Yeah, no, sorry. All right, just kidding. No, but so the winter hat thing, I chose that because I grew up in the South, and when I went to Cornell, it was sort of my first experience of snow, and I remember learning to drive in the snow, and that was traumatic, but I think it actually really helped me grow. Obviously, in college you learn a lot and change in a lot of ways, but that was sort of a learning experience. And I also tend to get cold a lot. So I thought that was a funny hat for myself. And then I'm wearing a whistle because I work in communications, but also we have 3 boys, ages 6, 4, and 2. So, you need a whistle every once in a while to sort of round up the troops. And I think it's a good communication tool when used appropriately. And then I'm holding a pretzel because I actually studied nutrition at Cornell, which is maybe not what you would expect going into communications, but I studied nutritional sciences in UMEC and worked as a dietitian in Massachusetts after we first got married. And then when we moved to Denmark, I had to figure out what to do and to pivot because I wasn't able to use my credentials here. And that leads me to holding the umbrella, which is you never know what's coming in the weather and you never know what's coming in life. And so I like the representation of always being prepared. And so I use my umbrella to parachute into a different career path and study communications at Aarhus University here in Denmark, and then started working for the Lego Group. And the surfboard is because, well, it's always been an ambition of mine to learn to surf, and I just thought it was fun. So a bit about me and my background, and maybe you can explain your minifigure, and then we'll get into it.
I thought that was my one on the left, so I don't really have.
Are you holding a B-2 bomber model with a magnifying glass or something? What do we have there?
Okay, so that minifigure of me, that's actually, this is going to blow your minds. I'm holding a triangle.
Oh, is that what it is?
So I'm sorry, my minifigure is not very exciting because I have to be fun and creative all day long for my work. So when I make a minifigure of myself, it's very, very boring. But I'm holding a triangle because I really love geometry. That's one of the things that I love about Lego, and especially building with Lego, is all of the geometrical things you can do with it. There's a lot of different interesting math things you can do with Lego bricks, and that is what has kept me interested in this hobby that's now become a career for so long. And I have a magnifying glass just so I can look really, really hard at that triangle.
Your hair looks amazing here. You didn't always have this beautiful hair. So let's go into some of the photos of Mike's early Lego exploration / hobby. What do we have here?
Yeah, so we're just skipping a couple of pictures ahead. So now we have some pictures of me as at different ages playing with Lego. That's one of on the side there with my tongue out. That's actually a photo from yesterday at work. That's one of the first sets I got as a kid. So like I was saying, Lego was a hobby of mine that I have always had in my life. With two older brothers, they had Lego bricks, and I saw what they had, and that was cool. And then I just kind of inherited the stuff they had. We say at Lego that kind of like the golden age, or at least traditionally, probably if we say the last 10 years, things have changed a lot with some different kind of target audiences that we're going after. But like when I was a kid, the golden age was like 6 to 9 years old. That was when we saw the most people connecting with Lego and really getting into it. So that's the same for me. That and around 1993, when I was 6, getting really hooked on Lego bricks. And I just could not get enough of it. My parents tried to get me into all sorts of other hobbies. They would buy me remote control planes, or this building toy called Connects. People have heard of it. It's not as good as Lego. Lego's the best. But I just couldn't get enough of Lego. But at the same time, I was in school really enjoying my math and physics classes. And Lego was something, there was no one that ever was in my life that said like, oh, that thing that you like to do for fun, that could actually be a job, or there's a career in there. You know, there's something about like this creativity or this design thinking, whatever that you're doing that could be relevant later in life. So I stuck on the engineering track. That's how I ended up at Cornell studying mechanical engineering, which I loved. It was a super fun education. It was challenging, and I learned a lot of cool things. I took a lot of great classes. And in the meantime, my Lego hobby, though, was not dying down. It was getting more and more serious. So I have a couple pictures here on the left. Am I saying that correctly? The left with the green room. That's what my Lego room looked like in college. So I actually grew up in Ithaca. So my parents, actually just a bit outside of Ithaca, a town called Brooktondale. My parents lived there while I was going to Cornell. And I would come home like on the weekends or on a long weekend or holidays. And I would just go in with the Lego bricks and just be going crazy building stuff. And then going back and studying and all of the college stuff, but it just kept on getting crazier. So the picture on the right, that is like my now super organized Lego collection that I had up until I started working at Lego. So I'd have all these little drawers with, the pieces sorted out by color and by shape. And I think it was at that point somewhere around like 150,000 parts I had, which actually, it sounds like a lot, but in the world of Lego collectors or Lego hobbyists, actually, we like to refer to ourselves as AFOLs, adult fans of Lego. Okay. 100,000 is like beginner size collection. So I had some friends that they had entire rooms in their house to get dedicated to like 2-3 million bricks. So after university, I started working for an engineering company, a defense contractor in New England, BAE Systems in New Hampshire. At the same time, I was getting really, really serious about my Lego. And I kind of, at BAE Systems, the work I was doing there really wasn't exciting me the way I thought it would, based on how much I had enjoyed my engineering studies at Cornell. So after a couple of years, I was starting to look like, okay, I think I want to do something different, but I don't really know what it is. And that's when I saw a job opening at Lego as a designer. I didn't really know what that meant. I'd heard some stories of like, oh, the people that create the models that people can buy and shop. So I understood the thing that they were designing, but I didn't really understand any idea of, is that a fun thing to do? Is it a thing that people are actually paying money for someone to do that? Is it where would I even go to do that? So I just applied for a job that was posted online, and came to Denmark for an interview. And we said this title of like a beyond dream. That's how I like to describe this. Like I'm saying, Lego was something I loved as a hobby, but I just didn't understand at all like that was something that I wanted to do. So there's the dream of like the dream thing of what you want to do, and the beyond dream is something that you couldn't even understand that that's what you wanted to do. And I just forgot one part of the story, which is probably the most interesting part. While I was working at BAE Systems, I was sharing all these Lego creations online. So I'd set up like a photo studio in our apartment, and I would take pictures of the things I'm building and share them with people online. And this guy from Raytheon, who is that's one of the kind of, I guess you could say, competitor of BAE Systems, but they're also heavily involved in electronic warfare. He contacted me and he was like, oh, I've seen your Lego models online and I would love for you to build a copy of this radar truck that we're producing, because I think it was the Air Force general that was kind of the head of this project had said, make the radar truck like Legos so it all clicks together. So this project lead at Raytheon got the idea, like, what if we had a Lego model of that radar? That would be so cool, because that's what he said we should make it look like. And I looked at a picture of it and I was like, this would be the most boring thing to build from Lego. I'm not interested. And then he said, I will pay you to do it. And I said, deal. That sounds like a good way to get more Lego bricks if I get some money. So I said, deal. But in the end, it was a super fun thing to build. And that's what got me started thinking, maybe there's something in this. Maybe Lego can be more than a hobby. Maybe I don't just need to sit in my Lego studio and just build the things that I want to make. There might be more. So that's what led me to this job interview, ultimately to a job here at Lego, designing Lego bricks. And again, like I was saying, where I didn't really know if it was something I wanted to do. I remember when we came, I came to the interview. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this. I was offered a job. I still wasn't sure if we wanted to do this. We moved to Denmark. I was still like, I really have no idea what I'm getting into. It wasn't until I actually went into the office and saw the environment that we're working in. One thing, like the playfulness of the environment, the coworkers, the diversity of the coworkers, in all sorts of ways. It was just an incredible place. And just the fun of what we actually get to do as work. The way that we design these products is so, like, I was scared, I'm just going to be sitting at a computer working in a CAD software or something, but it's such a hands-on, fun, playful experience that I have been hooked ever since. So I'm still waiting for like that time where you get up and kind of dread going to work, or even just aren't interested in going to work.
You know, when you were talking about a moment ago about being unsure of your particular qualifications, after you had kind of signed on as Lego, right, you began doing the work, you found that there were people from, you had mentioned a diversity of backgrounds. Tell us a little bit about the other people that you immediately found yourself working with. What were their qualifications? What did they bring to the table?
The design team here in Billund is, if I had to say like the universal qualifications for a Lego designer would be that you're a person. That's probably it. One of my coworkers, Niels, who actually he has been at Lego since the early 80s. So he's actually designed a lot of the products that I played with as a kid, which is amazing to me. But before Lego, he was a fisherman. And he kind of had a little bit of a tragic, I don't know if we say tragic or what. It's not tragic for him, but he was a fisherman that got sick then wasn't able to go out on the fishing trip with his boat. And that trip that he missed because he was sick, the boat went down with all hands. So he was labeled as like bad luck in the Danish fishing industry, and there was no crew that would take him onto his boat. So he started work as a Lego designer, and he's been doing that now 40 years or something, and is one of the most talented people that we have at Lego. There are a lot of architects, specifically in the team I work in. At the time I started, I think there were 3 architects. That was actually a really interesting time. It was 2012 that I started, and kind of with the whole late 2000s financial crisis, the architecture was hit extremely hard by that. So there were, especially in Denmark, there were a lot of architects looking for work, and quite a few of them ended up in Lego in the design department, and most of them are still here, which is super cool. Probably a guy that started, he jokes with me all the time. He started 1 month before I started, so he's always talking about how much more experience he is than me. But he was a Danish architect that had lost his job from ramifications from the financial crisis. But
I think something that's also really cool about being a designer at Lego is that it really is globally diverse too. I mean, when you came from your interview, there were people from every continent other than Antarctica. And it's sort of, you can see it as 2 different ways. You can see it as, people from all over the world want to become Lego designers because it is a beyond dream for kids. And if they can make that come true, that's great. But on the other hand, also it takes a lot more skill than I think the average Lego builder realizes. And so you might think, oh, I'm good enough to be a designer. But of course, it's like anything you do, there's a difference between sort of your average Joe and the elite. And so they do recruit globally to find the absolute best that they can. And I think that's pretty cool that you have, so many different perspectives and cultural backgrounds and just a lot of unique things that people bring to the table. And that's true with the whole company. I would say that's something that I really enjoy about working here, but I think it's especially true in your department.
Yeah.
We were talking about apologies. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to follow up and say how cool it is. The going into work, like we live in Billund, Denmark. Is if you think that Ithaca, I'm using that because I think that's relevant for our audience, right? If you think that Ithaca is like isolated from New York City, Billund, Denmark is that to Copenhagen by about 100 times as much. It's just like, it's in the middle of a cow pasture.
Yeah, literally.
And I mean, now there's been more build up here, but like it really is just Lego is out in a field. And so it's amazing to come into work, and you would never expect to meet this cast of characters that you would meet out in the Danish countryside, just kind of in the middle of farm country. It's incredible.
So let's talk about the culture, right? I mean, you work at a toy company, right? So there's kind of everything that you had described, everything that's kind of built into that. Is there anything particularly Danish about the Lego group to speak about the culture in the workplace and what it feels like to be there?
Yeah, I think one thing that's been really interesting for us.
Next slide, sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We don't need to see that radar anymore.
Good point.
It is very cool.
Oops. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. So first things first, you would expect it to be colorful and fun, and it is. So here are some pictures of our workplace. These are photos of the new building that we're sitting in, which has just been constructed over the past few years and actually is still under construction. But this is the Lego campus. And I think this in and of itself, you can't necessarily tell that it's the Lego group by looking at these photos, because this could be a sort of any colorful workplace, but it is just sort of obviously a fun environment. This is a picture of the old design building where Mike started, and he's not in that building anymore. But if you look in the back, that blue tube and then the silver thing, that's actually a slide. So that's just sort of like fun things like that around the office. I mean, like you would expect. And then this is in Mike's building, which you can't really take photos in there. So it's just very zoomed in on this one specific thing because, there's secret stuff in the background. But basically just, play opportunities everywhere, which is one of the core values of the Lego group is, obviously it's a toy company, so play is important, which is why we wanted to talk about that with the viewers. But one thing that I think is really cool, in addition to all the stuff that we've mentioned, is just I think it's really Danish in the sense that hierarchy is not so important. My first day working for the company, I actually started, I forgot to mention this, but I started as a personal assistant for one of the vice presidents. And so I went to the lunch table and I sat down, and thankfully I had done a little bit of research on who was in top management, because they were the people sitting around me at the lunch table, and I would have had no idea. And thankfully I only knew because I looked at their pictures the night before I started to get an idea. And that was cool that, you know, I got introduced to the CEO, and my boss said, "Oh, this is my new PA, Karen." And he said, "I know. I read the email and welcome, and it was nice to, you know your background and everything." So that's something I think is really cool about working here. And that's pretty typical Danish. And then I think another thing is a focus on family. You know, things like sick leave and maternity leave and stuff. I mean, I don't want to say too much to make people jealous, but basically that's been a really interesting thing and a really positive thing about working for a Danish company, and just the focus on work-life balance. So I think those are sort of two typically Danish things. And then a few things about the Lego group specifically. Another funny thing, when I first started, I came from a nutrition background. So although I had studied communications, there are things that you don't learn until you're working on the job, of like any career. And so one thing that I didn't actually know what EOD meant, end of day. And so people would write, normally external people would write to us and say something about EOD. And so I learned end of day. But then I started seeing people internally write EOP. And I thought, what is that? End of, I don't even know what that could be. And so I asked them, and they said, "Oh, it's end of play."
Yeah.
So we don't use end of day, we use end of play internally, which I think is just sort of funny.
You know, you shared some interesting stats regarding play and what people think about it. I don't know if you have them available to you. If not, I can read them off right here.
Yeah, I didn't. Since it's about play, we didn't want to make it too boring. And my co-presenter said it would be boring to have numbers on the screen, even though he loves numbers. So if you want to read them off, I think that'd be good.
Well, I think it's noteworthy, and there's something to take away. Yeah. So 72% of adults say that play helps them de-stress or relax. 89% of adults admit to indulging in childlike activities, including those where no children are present, 85%, something like that. However, 51% and majority of the adults believe that it is not socially acceptable for adults to play. So there's something going on there, but people themselves believe that it's play is certainly important. Is that what you see? I mean, that's clearly probably what you see at work. How do you think? How do you create a culture of play? I mean, how is it done at Legos, right? How is it in operation? How is it in practice? When you talk about EOP, what happens during the PE part?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what I can say overall is that play is infused into every part of the business. Uh-huh. You can think working in the factory is not inherently playful. Working in communications isn't necessarily inherently playful. And so I think it's about making play part of our everyday work. And we have some pictures. Well, I'll wait to get to the pictures, but we can just talk about some playful aspects of what we do.
Yeah, so some of the things, for me, it's a little bit different because I work in product development. So in the product development building, it's like just so many Lego bricks everywhere. And our job is essentially to be, there's so many different ways you can play with Lego bricks. The one you would like most readily think of is sitting and building, which is the one that we're most often kind of doing. But that's essentially what we're being asked to do for our job, is sit and build things with Lego, which is like one of our core, let's say, Lego play types. Obviously, then on top of that, there's like role play you can do with things once you've created them. You can even just dump out the Lego and just like move it around or whatever. So there's so many different things you can do with it. But even just like in any meeting room we have, there's always actually, there's not in the room we're in right now, but there is a giant Lego flame, which is pretty cool. But and the walls are built of Lego, so that's pretty good. But there's always just like a bowl of loose bricks, and I think that's what's cool about the Lego bricks themselves is like they immediately inspire that creative play, even if, well, maybe not for everyone, but at least for me they do. Even if you just have like a bucket of red bricks, and if you just understand the basics of how they start to connect together, it just immediately you want to take some and just start making a pattern or trying to make something specific, or even just like I sometimes just like to stack them up because it's just like that kind of aesthetical experience of connecting them, and like the feeling and the sound of connecting them, but then also of the connected bricks. So
I think to build on that, so first of all, both of us are holding Lego bricks in our hands and sort of playing with them while we talk. And one thing you'll notice a lot of times, if you, not that I would have expected our viewers to necessarily have seen a press conference or anything from the Lego group, but if you do, I mean, a lot of times our CEO will be holding bricks in his hands while he talks and sort of fiddling with them. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's nice to have something to do with your hands. So even in a really simple level, you know, we like to make the bricks available. And this is not an hour-long ad for Lego as a toy. This is just the example that we work with. But I think, stay tuned for hour 2. But I think what's notable is just that play can be part of what you do. And so an example of that I think was really powerful for me was when we went on, well, 2 things. First of all, so I said I was a PA for one of the vice presidents when I first started, and his schedule was insane. I mean, the man worked ridiculous. You know, I had a schedule in his bathroom breaks every once in a while because he wanted to take a meeting with everyone, and that was his style. But no matter how busy he was, he always started off meetings with some kind of playful activity. And, you know, it didn't matter who it was with. It didn't matter if it was another vice president, if it was just me and him or whatever. We would always have a little short 30-second play thing, or, you know, in a team event that we went to, it was a 2-day offsite. And, you know, we had a big agenda we needed to get done, but we spent 3/4 of the first day playing with bricks and using them purposefully, not just sort of frivolous play for the sake of play, but using it to get what we needed to do done. And so it was basic. What do they call it? Do we have a specific name for it? I can't remember what the name is, but I think it's called Lego Serious Play. And you can actually, like, you can order kits externally, but we have them internally too. And basically what it is, you know, you start off by, in groups, everyone takes bricks and makes, essentially like we did, a minifigure or something to represent themselves. And you work together at the table or wherever you are to make a model of what your department looks like. Not necessarily the physical office, but, you know, what your department does, your tasks, or what your role is. And then what you do is you take people from different groups and you put their models together and tell them, okay, we're going to give you string and we need you to connect each other to each other from department to department and explain how your work is related. And in doing that, it's play, but you're also getting the job done of, okay, learning about each other, you know, getting better connections, that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily frivolous play in that way, but there are instances of frivolous play, which I have to show you guys because they're hilarious. So we'll hopefully go through the slides here. So these slides, I'll just sort of scroll through, but basically.
Can I see what that is?
Oh, oops.
I was there.
Yeah.
I guess this is also the same thing, right? So we had the family that owns Lego, every 5 years, they just throw a huge party celebrating like the next. So the last one we had, I think, was 85. Yeah. 85 years birthday of Lego. Yeah. And they just like, it's just like insanely over the top party for everyone in the company. Mm-hmm. This was from the 85th birthday. So that's one thing where like that's coming all the way from the top down, like not even from the CEO, from the owner. They're just like, we want everyone to have fun, stop doing your work. We've set up all this stuff out in the field, and today is just about this big party. So I'm looking forward to the 90th years birthday. I think.
Yeah, that's next year. We'll report back part 2. Yeah, so these pictures that are up right now, I put a minifigure face over them just because I didn't ask if I could use these photos, but these are top management and family members because Lego is a family-owned business. So this is actually this is one of the factories in Mexico. And so what I was saying earlier about, some jobs, some workplaces aren't that kind of place where it is inherent to play, but I think it's still a good example of how you can make the time. And so this was from the 85th birthday, but in addition to that, every year we have an annual play day. And so the whole company shuts down. The offices are closed, the factories are shut down, nobody is working. We're all out playing. And so they organize play day events in each location. So this was a silent dance party. So they have different stations. And so everyone was wearing headphones and having their own dance party, but you don't necessarily know what music other people are listening to. And here people were sumo wrestling. This is also in one of the factories. And then my favorite, I wasn't there for this, but Mike was around. And this is toilet seat racing, which I didn't know you could do, but you can. And so every once in a while, and that's something that's encouraged. And I think it's a pretty cool thing because it really does put into practice what we're preaching.
That's beautiful. You know what? I have some really good questions coming in from the audience. I know we've kind of put stuff together, but I'd like to take it in a couple different directions because I think there's some cool opportunities here. Switching gears. This is a question from viewer Sarah who asks, my 8-year-old son who has ADHD seems to be on a Lego engineering track. Do you find a lot of neuroatypical folks at Lego? Any thoughts, Mike?
I said no hard questions.
That was maybe
I think that like, I don't want to say anything bad about my colleagues. And I guess that's bad to say I'm saying anything bad, but like we're definitely, there is a trend of like this hyper focus in the designers, in this crazy attention to detail. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how to say it. Like there's something with Lego, and I see the same thing in myself, that like the kind of like structure of it combined with then also the, like you have this super rigid structure, but also assuming you have enough pieces is at the end of the day completely unlimited in its capability. There's just something really appealing about that to like a very, very like analytical, methodical mind. Mm-hmm. That's true for me. And so many of my coworkers have that same like mindset. So that's one thing that I see is super common in the design team. And like, we're making all sorts of different models. Like some of the things one of the models we just made it's a almost 12,000 piece world map. It's like a 2-dimensional world map. So you put on all these 1x1 round tiles, 11,000 something of them, onto this huge world map. That's like a completely different experience to design something like that versus if you want to design a Porsche 911, because that map is all about it's all about your color composition and making gradients with these, like making gradients out of a very digital color palette. So there's a huge variety of what you can do as a Lego designer and what skills we're looking for. But I would say there is no one that we would look at and say, you can't do this job. I think what I say to kids is, if you love building with Lego and you also can build something and have fun that someone else tells you to build, not what you want to build.
Like the radar.
Yeah.
Like that thing that I did. Like if you can do that, then you are qualified to be a Lego designer. That's all it takes. I'm not offering a job right now. I just want to put that out there. This is not, there are no contracts on the line here, but that is, to me, the number one thing is, do you enjoy still building with Lego? That's one thing that we see a lot of. Like I was saying, that 6 to 9 year old range, we see a lot of kids as they get older, start to find other things that interest them. Maybe it's sports, maybe it's music, maybe it's just social relationships. So like if you are still interested in Lego as you get older, that's huge. And then that second thing is, can you design for more than just yourself? That is such an important skill that there are designers at Lego that really struggle with that. But if you can embrace that and take this idea of, okay, I'm not making this thing for me. I can like put myself into it and I can put my touches on it, but ultimately the thing I'm making isn't meant to satisfy me. It's meant to satisfy someone else. Then you will be incredibly successful.
You know, you had mentioned that the company is 85 years old, or that was the 85th celebration, approaching 90. So for many of us, we've seen the evolution of Lego throughout our lifetimes, right? So when I was a child, I'm 50 now, right? So it went from everything from the sets where they were just simply colorful sets with no specific kind of end product in mind. Viewer Lisa asked, and then what happened to me was the space exploration set came out, right? And that was a revelation. It changed everything. And then I completely focused, right? Once I had a little bit of structure and some kind of end product to kind of aim for, then it completely set me off. But Lisa, I think, is thinking the very same thing that I was thinking kind of throughout. Lisa asks, do you think play patterns have changed over the generations? I notice more Lego products are meant to build specific things rather than build whatever your imagination sees. How do you think about Lego as a legacy product and the way that it's developed over the years?
So we still have boxes that you can buy that are just those completely like unscripted, here's a huge pile of bricks, go crazy. I think what we've seen I don't think we've seen kids changing in the way that they play with Lego. I think what our goal is just to get more kids to play with Lego. Like if you look at what it was 30 years ago, then Lego was predominantly a toy that was played with by people that wanted that super free creativity, like building blocks experience. And we still offer that, and there's still kids that really love that. But now we also have something like, say you're really big into role play, maybe you really love Star Wars, then there's a Lego set that can be that thing. So in the end, it is this, well, I don't want to say in the end, but at a point in that product's life, it is this like completed Star Wars spaceship that has Obi-Wan Kenobi flying it. So you can have that role play experience, but actually the process of getting there, you had this other Lego experience as well. And now we can kind of like trick someone that thought they just wanted to play with Obi-Wan Kenobi's Starfighter into actually having this creative experience. Mm-hmm. And maybe they get hooked on that and start to look at other things and eventually end up in that big bucket of bricks. So I don't think we don't see kids are like now just playing in a totally different way, in the sense that kids don't play the way they used to. We just see so many other types of kids now playing with Lego as well than just the ones that wanted that big bucket.
Perfect. We had discussed when we were chatting the other day about some of the barriers to play. Like, how do you make it part of your work? Is everyone at the organization encouraged to play? HR director, production manager, that kind of stuff. Viewer Caitlin asks, she says, this is so fascinating. I'm a play coach teaching adults to play and bring play to work. We'd love to hear more about specific examples of bringing playfulness to serious meetings. Me, knowing the American public, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there rolling their eyes saying, what kind of workplace is this, right? This would never work for my industry, not even for 1 second. But, for somebody that has to think about bringing this kind of thing to serious meetings, you had talked about some of the interpersonal things that you can do, the interactive, exercises. Is there always a time and place for play when you're seriously hard at work?
Yeah, I mean, let's not kid around. Every once in a while you get into a meeting that gets pretty serious, right? That's true no matter where you work. Right. But I think there's still the underlying like values. And I think that comes from everyone in the room knows, hey, our ultimate goal here is to inspire kids and get them building. And I think there's just a general culture of of keeping it like lighthearted, and that helps when you get into the serious moments. And so I think that actually what you do, in those meetings, like always starting off with play or that kind of thing, always making time for it, builds up a foundation so that when you do get into a stressful moment and someone says, now we're going to take a break and we're going to play, you don't say, are you kidding me? Like, you just say, okay, that's going to help us get where we need to go. So there have been times where I've sat in on meetings and watched, even our top management will say, we have a problem, we can't solve it. How can we let's get out some bricks and see if we can map it out with Lego bricks, or let's see if we can even just take a 5-minute break. And this sounds silly, but something as easy as turn on music, everyone takes a piece of paper and just draw whatever the music is making you feel and color it in. And then okay, we've all had a mental, break, wellness check, and then we can move on to this thing, even if it's just to sort of reset. So I think to some degree, yes, there's always time for play. Obviously, choose your moment, not in the middle of an impassioned speech. But yes, I think I have seen that for sure.
But I think it would be funny now to give a really concrete example of a Lego play experience. I don't know. Do you think that would be cool? Because I think one thing that you think of with Lego bricks, at least maybe it's only me, I don't know, maybe no one else thinks like this, but Lego is kind of like a unlimited play, right? If you said oh, go play with your Lego bricks for 5 minutes, that sounds like a silly proposal, right? Because at least I remember from my childhood and now still at my job, it's you're always looking for more time to add. So how do you create a short play experience with Lego bricks? There's this thing called a 6-brick combination, where there's some mathematician figured out that if you have 6 Lego 2x4 bricks, they can be combined in 9, some number of billions of different ways. It's just those 6 parts. Wow. So even very few pieces, there's a huge,
and that's 6 pieces of the same color.
So this is a thing that we do at Lego that is super interesting and fun, and Lego, and some people call it the duck experiment. I don't know what I call it, but duck experiment sounds great. Yeah. So these are 6 super classical Lego bricks. You have 2x4, 2 2x2s, 1x2, and some plates. And then what we would do is you give this to everyone in the room. I wish if anyone is at home with Lego bricks, go find these 6 parts if you have them, or 6 very similar parts. And then the idea is we give you these pieces and say, okay, now in 1 minute, use these pieces to build a duck. And there's no instructions, just do whatever you want. So
we're actually going to do it.
Karen and I have the bricks here. And what's cool is you look at those 6 pieces and everyone can imagine a way to build a duck pretty straightforward. It's not that daunting of a task, right? Because in our minds aren't perceiving all of those 9 billion possible permutations. We think okay, you're going to have the head on top, probably those red ones. Maybe you could use one for feet. Maybe you could use one for the bill of the duck, and probably that 2x4 is the body. So this one you're seeing now.
That's my duck.
There we go.
So this is the
most common.
Is that the gold?
No, this is the official result, right? This is what you could say.
Correct.
No, I don't want to say correct.
It's correct because it's mine.
Because that's what's so cool about this is now you've made that duck, and I think people will look at that and say, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." But that's also probably not what you've made. This is one that I made that I think we could definitely have an argument about which one is a better duck, but I don't think we can have an argument about whether or not it's a duck built from Lego bricks or this one. This is the one that this is kind of showing how fun this experiment can be, because every time you get these 6 bricks, you can always think of a new way to build a duck, and you're probably pushing the limits of reality. But if this is one that I made that I'm super proud of, because if you go to the next slide, you actually just flip it around, and it looks maybe a little more like a duck. It's a little bit of a
it's a stretch.
But I think you can buy that as a duck.
Sure.
What's the next one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then this one is another one that is just super funny. That it's built exactly like the way you would see a classical duck, but everything is upside down. So actually, it's built completely differently. Yeah. So this is what's really cool then with something like this is you get a room of say 20 people and you give everyone those 6 bricks. You may end up with 20 different versions of the duck when everyone thought they were going to make the same thing, because you get such a clear vision in your head of there's only one way to build a duck with these pieces, and you assume everyone else has had the same thing when they really haven't. But also like it can be done so quickly. You don't need to spend hours agonizing over whether or not you should have the red piece on the bottom or whatever. So yeah, this is actually one of the things that we do for our new hires, like one of the very first building experiences they have. It's also just like you can bust this out in so many different places for so many different reasons, as just like a way to take a break, or a way to just like get people thinking in a new way or thinking collaboratively. You can also like, you can go on a million different ways that we use stuff like this. But
one can imagine going into a job interview and a group of people around the table saying, "Now build the duck," and
yeah, like
interesting move.
Interesting.
I see that connection you made there.
Almost like oh man, now you've got me. If anyone wants to do a really great piece of research, I would love for someone to take these I think it's the Myers-Briggs profiles. There's like those 6 personality profiles. I would love for someone to take the Lego duck and do an average build of what each of the profiles makes. That's my new science experiment.
Oh boy.
If anyone's doing research.
Yeah, if anyone wants a completely unnecessary research project, but one that would interest me a lot.
We'll publish it in the sequel to this keynote. So I have a great user question from Emily, meaning a Lego user, or she asks, what is the best, in your opinion, way to organize Lego bricks for free play and design? I had heard
Karen,
organized by color. I've heard organized by shape, but sometimes I wonder if my kids would be more likely to free design if they were all together. What's this?
Okay.
How do you organize?
Don't listen to the designer, listen to the mom.
Okay.
So we have gone through a lot of permutations. Like I said, we have a 6, a 4, and a 2-year-old. And they obviously are inundated with Lego bricks. So we have a real problem on our hands. And I say that, of course, jokingly. We're fortunate to have a problem on our hands. But what we found that has worked best for our kids now, and what I actually think as an amateur builder works best for me, is organizing them sort of by size. So we actually have one bin that's just like little bitty pieces, like the little bits and bobs.
That's the technical term.
Yeah, the little bitties. That's the technical term. Yeah. And so we have another one then that's all minifigures, because one of our kids is really into role play and he loves the minifigures and just figuring out what different funny combinations. He'll put 3 sets of legs together, like Lord Business, and do things like that. And so we have one bin that's just for minifigure parts and accessories for him to really dig into and make his fun characters. And then we also have one bin that's like the plates, so like the really flat ones. And those are great, like for, again, I'm an amateur builder. If dad's not around and they're stuck with me, they really freak out. But we try to use those to get a base, if we're going to build a house or whatever. And then sort of the classic bricks in the sense of like the 2x4s, like the ones that are the different versions of this, bigger or smaller. And so sort of by shape we found has worked best. But that's my mom input. So now you give the professional input.
What do you think, Mike?
How much time do we have left?
For this question, 1 minute.
Oh man. Okay. To what she said. The sorting by shape is like sorting by color sounds really useful, but then it's so hard to find like, okay, now I want a 1-by-1 piece with a clip on it. I don't actually care what color it is. I don't know what color I have it in. How am I going to find that? And also trying to find an individual piece in a sea of the same color is really difficult. So I definitely don't recommend sorting by color unless you've gone through all the other phases of sorting first. That's like the last criteria to sort on. But so that like the size and kind of the type of piece. And I also think the more you sort, the harder it is to be creative. So like we have maybe 4 different categories. Like we have the basic bricks, we have the tiny pieces, we have the minifigures, and then we have everything else.
And the plates, and then we have everything else.
Yeah,
we literally have a huge, like it's like a rug that has strings and you can make it into a bag, like a Santa's bag over your shoulder. That's what we have for our kids. And we'll just sort of open it up and let them sort of essentially swim in it.
And I think it also depends on like what, sometimes you want to sort out the wheels. Sometimes you want to sort out all like the windows or something. But yeah, I think like you just don't want to make it overwhelming to try to find a piece. You don't want to have to go and look in a lot of different places. And you also want to be able to be like surprised by something that you find, right? So you want there to be things in the bin that you're searching for that are definitely not the thing you're looking for. So you're going to find something and be like, oh, this piece would actually be really useful, but I was not expecting to find this piece in here.
That's perfect. Good advice. Good question, Emmy. So Neil very early on asked this question, and I think we're all kind of curious about it. How many people work at the Lego Group?
Like maybe at this point, I think it's probably 16,000.
Yeah, aren't we like 5,000 in Billund total, including the factory? 5,000 in Billund. Oh dear, we have a little bit of a problem. No, and we might run out of power. So if we lose you, we'll save our farewells. But yeah, we do. We have about 5,000 people here in Billund, and then globally, including the stores, we have about 16,000. Yeah, I'm just going to look for a power source.
So Lego owns a lot of brand stores, so that accounts for a large portion of the employees. But then also here in Billund it's 5,000. I think we call ourselves product marketing and development. I think we're about 1,000 people in that branch of the company. So
back to the question from Neil. I never got around to it, but from product conception, design to market, right? How long is that process? How long is that? Is there any typical kind of time frame turnaround, project completion date?
So I'll just say where we are right now. Right now, we are discussing what we will bring to market in 2023. So we're at like a very early conceptual stage for models for 2023. Sorry, we're just doing a little tiny
just a slight adjustment
just to show you other parts of this room, right?
Okay, no, that's totally fine. I'll take 1 second to the audience. We can take a couple more questions.
It's. What is it now? Sorry, I've totally lost track of time. So about a year and a half from like the very initial concept until we're bringing that thing to market. And so that involves like the product design, but then also the planning of production and potentially making new parts or molds. But it can also be much, much faster if we decide like, oh, we have an idea that we want to get out there as fast as we can. I think the shortest kind of timeline we do is maybe 4 or 5 months. The thing is, it takes a lot to figure out the design, and then also figure out how you're going to produce all these bricks, get them into a box, and get them to all the right places in the world. So the thing is, we're producing about 500 different products at any given time. So if we just start throwing in things all over the place all the time, it creates huge logistical complexities for our factories. So yeah, they like to have a little bit of advance warning of what they need to produce.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. A couple good audience questions coming in. A question from Nathan Feist, who asked, he says, "Hey, Mike, I remember your great airplane and Jurassic Park models on Flickr long ago. I'm curious what MOCs or real-world buildings inspired the downtown diner set. fill me in here. What are we talking about?
Okay, MOC is a Lego fan term that stands for my own creation.
Got it.
So there's a huge Lego fan community online. I feel like I've talked about this before, but like the Lego fan community really started. It really grew thanks to the internet. It's like as an adult, you're really embarrassed to kind of talk about. Well, I'll speak for myself.
You shouldn't be, but
as an adult, I was pretty embarrassed to talk about Lego. This is like even like when I would go to a store to buy Lego, like let's say I'm in Toys R Us, like you kind of don't want to admit that you're buying the stuff yourself. So like at the cash register, sometimes they'll be asking you like, oh, who's this for or whatever. And you're like, oh, birthday present, like for myself. But it's a little bit, I think now Lego's become a lot cooler in the last few years, but especially like 20 years ago, when I was really getting into that online community, it wasn't something that you would go around and be proud of, like, oh yeah, you know what I do in my spare time is I go in my Lego room and I build my own creations. So the internet really allowed Lego fans to connect because there wasn't a good way to connect with those people before. Like you would, the only chance you would really have of meeting another Lego person would be if you ran into each other in a toy store, both buying Lego sets, and the chance of actually communicating is so low because you're kind of there hoping no one recognizes that you're there to buy these things for yourself. Mm-hmm. So, sorry, this is a super long explanation. So Flickr is a photo sharing website where the Lego fan community started to coalesce in like 2005 or 6. And has been prominent ever since just because of the way it allowed you to share photos and then engage in community around those photos, building like groups and chat rooms, and even some of the really unique ways that you could comment on the photos. They have this really cool feature where you could like drag a little box over a picture and leave a note. So yeah, that's what it is.
So the diner.
No, yeah, the Downtown Diner.
Yeah, Downtown Diner is a Lego set I designed. That was part of a series that we do every year, this new building that kind of fits into this city that we've been building up for now, I think the last 14 years or so. Every year we bring out a new model for that city, and it's kind of like, it's a really kind of hotly anticipated thing by our adult fans and kids as well. But there are these huge buildings, like somewhere around between 2,000 and 3,000 pieces in them. So it's kind of like a prestigious thing to get to work on one of those. There's only been, like I was saying, there are 500 Lego products available at any given time, but we're only making one of these buildings every year. So it's a pretty kind of special thing. So I got to make one that's called the Downtown Diner, and it was really like, I think we could have a whole talk just about the development of that model because there's so many different people giving inputs. It's not like, it doesn't work like I just sit there and say, I think the next building should be a diner and I'm going to build that and then we'll just go with it. There were so many different people to say like, give inputs on what direction it should be. It actually started out, what I wanted to make it was auto mechanic, but that didn't excite people enough. And then I turned from there to a car dealership, and then that didn't really fit in the downtown of the city very well. So my good friend and coworker, Carl, who I don't know why, he just thought like, oh, why not just make it into a diner? And that's how we got to diner. It was a very like abstract, winding process to get there.
But part of what you said, which could be interesting to people, is you said like, oh, that didn't excite people, which you're basically referring to the testing process, which you haven't talked about, like, and researching, what people are interested in. So that's also, because he was asking about inspiration, and part of it for the products that they design is testing with kids or with adult users, and figuring out what would excite people and what they connect with and what they don't connect with or what they don't recognize or what they do recognize, which also is different from country to country. So, yeah.
I wish we could go on, but we can't. The hour is just about up. I got to tell you, Mike and Karen, I feel like we could have talked all day about this. The audience certainly had some really good questions and took us in some interesting directions. So I want to thank all our viewers for joining us and hanging out with us for this hour. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want to thank you again, Mike and Karen Psyche. Thank you so much for setting this up and joining us from Denmark today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. It's been great.
And everybody get out there and play.
That's right. Thank you so much, audience. Stay safe, stay strong. We'll see you at the next keynote. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Thank you.